Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Most Search. This is a show where Warren and I discuss about the most searched things throughout the duration of the week. Like all natural type of guy, man.
Yeah. No, I remember this discussion.
I like hanging out on the earth. On the earth and the plants, you know. Yeah, let it hang out. Just let it hang out.
Okay, free the nip and free the nip and free the tip, as you say.
That's not what I'm saying. That's what you're saying. All right. Next topic. Okay.
Quickly, Manchester City's ban has been lifted apparently, and they're in the Champions League, which I think is BS. For the simple fact that we know in history fans that have been caught doing something unethical have either been docked, 20 points or whatever the case may be, basically almost relegating them or making them lose top flight. Or stopping them from buying players. Like I think it was it Chelsea? Yeah, Chelsea couldn't buy players for a period of time, which obviously hindered them.
But that situation is different. That's
I'm just saying
signing.
Yeah, I'm just saying when things have gone wrong, they've been punished a certain way, and that non-signing of players did hinder them trophy-wise to a large degree, or at least challenging. And I just think it's BS that they were caught lying about their funds, using personal money. I can't remember what it was. They said that their sponsorship was X amount of millions per month, but it wasn't.
Yeah, and it came from one of their own companies.
And now it's been lifted and they got a slap on the wrist for a fine. Whatever the fine was, makes no difference when your owner is worth $100 billion. Well, of money he's declared.
I mean, this is also leading to the fact as to why this situation was overturned, or the ban was obviously dropped and given a lighter sentence, was because they could afford the best lawyers. They had like teams and teams of lawyers in a room trying to figure this whole situation out. But I suppose the bigger conversation is, apart from them being given this ban, is the conversation of financial fair play and where this is taking football as a whole. Mm-hmm. I mean, we can say this is BS. We can say that, they got away with it. They did something unethical. Yeah, sure. But at the same time, I think financial fair play is an interesting concept. It's a concept that is there and I think Gary Neville's mentioned this until he was blue in the face. Financial fair play is there to pretty much empower the teams that already are in power. And why that is said is because pretty much, that's what it is. How financial fair play works is you cannot spend more than you make.
Yeah.
So if you had to implement this rule right now to all the clubs, which is being done, okay? So if you had to do this prior to the whole City takeover with the Sheikhs, City don't become the force that they are, okay? Yeah. And the top teams and Chelsea don't become the force that they are. So the Premier League then ultimately becomes run between Arsenal, United, and you could argue Liverpool. Mm-hmm. That's it. Because they can only so these big clubs make more money from commercial gains and not just obviously revenue through ticket sales and. So they generally make that money. Now through the buying of players and, they can then level out the playing field. They get the best players, but the smaller clubs then cannot spend that money. And if they do not get invested, if a Newcastle, for example, does not get taken over by a Saudi, they're never going to be as competitive as a City or a Liverpool because they cannot go and buy the players. And to be able to compete with those sort of clubs, they have to buy those players to get to a level to build the brand of the club that can then come up with other commercial revenues that build the fan base on a worldwide level that can then sustain itself and become profitable. Or financial fair play does is it helps the big clubs turn over a profit, like a Liverpool. Liverpool's strategy right now, we are a profitable Liverpool are a profitable club because of financial fair play. The owners are going, cool, we have to adhere to these rules. Okay, what does that mean? That means we've got to make money in other ways. We're already making money through our fan base, off YouTube subscribers, off Liverpool TV, off ticket sales, off selling jersey, merchandise, all that stuff. Yeah, so what we have to do is build younger players, 4, 3, 4, 5-year plan, get them to the point where they win the league, which they've done now. They've sold a lot of players, and now they're sustaining themselves. What they're doing is they're making a profit every year, whereas the other clubs aren't. City can make their profit because they can catch up in terms of building their brand on a global scale. Things like I don't know, I'm going in a rant, I'm the only one talking right now, but their Football City group. The City group is a way for them to generate income and generate cheaper transfers between players from New York City, Melbourne City, Yokohama City, I think that's what it's called, It's just a better way to affiliate the brand in all these other communities on a global scale and build the brand equity of Manchester City Football Club. The only reason they were banned in the first place is because your institutional clubs, like your Bayerns, like your Juventus, and all these other clubs in Europe, which have all these guys in Uefa, don't like the fact that this new money is coming in and competing with those clubs. That's why they were made example of. PSG have been doing it for how long?
Yeah,
They weren't
Madrid
banned.
have been doing it forever.
Exactly. Yeah, they've been doing it forever. But these clubs weren't banned. So they were trying to make an example out of City, which, if City don't do what they do, they're not competitive, and it doesn't make the Premier League as competitive as a whole and within the Champions League. So, and also, if they continue implementing these financial fair play rules, what then does happen to these rich playboys who want to invest into a Newcastle? It doesn't become fun anymore for them. They're not there to build this huge business over 3-4 years. They're there because they want to have some fun, throw some money, and see who's got the biggest dick. That's kind of what it is. Now, if you remove that, then all of a sudden these transfers start tanking a little bit. Okay, what are your thoughts? Sorry, I went on a rant. I think that was like a 45
No,
minute rant.
I get what you're saying with everything. I think obviously it's ultimately flawed, and that's the thing. Even with I can't remember the guy's name. I'm having such blanks today. The guy used to be the president of FIFA, Blatter.
Platini.
Yeah,
Or Sepp Blatter.
yeah.
That's FIFA, eh? Platini was
FIFA.
UEFA.
No, I'm just saying, for example, like him, where it's these big boys behind the scenes that are doing these deals and stuff because more money can be made here and this can happen, whatever. It's always going to happen regardless. It's governments do it all the time, as an example. And I think in terms of fair play, the only way it would technically work is you can't say you can spend as much as you make. Because like City did, was like, oh, we're technically making whatever 600 million a year because we're putting money into ourselves. It should be a case of the limit is, just as an example, 150 million. That's the limit across the board. Now, yes, people like Norwich won't meet that, at least in the beginning. But that gives...
But they're not hindered by it.
Yeah, but now they have the opportunity to possibly get a player for 20 million, because now it's not a case of City, Liverpool, United, or Arsenal. Not really Arsenal, because they don't really spend any money really, except for now. But they're not being the players aren't being not teased, what's the word, lured in with the higher fees of salary or wages and the fame of most expensive defender in the world, that kind of thing. But it will allow them to be like, okay, cool. That means, for example, United bought Pogba for, what was it, like 100 million or whatever the hell it was. There you go. That's your one player. Okay, cool. You got 50 million left. Now what you're going to do? You're going to buy 5 players for 10?
See, that's an interesting concept, because if you're comparing that to what the Americans do, the American, in terms of all their professional sports, the Americans is that the league owns the clubs, which is pretty interesting.
Okay.
Because so in the rest of Europe and football wise, the clubs are independently owned.
Yeah.
And they run independently.
They're just
so these sort of rules.
Committee.
Yeah, and these rules are kind of somewhat they become very difficult to regulate, because there are different federations in each country. Even Europe's a different federation from how the Premier League. These rules aren't standard.
Yeah.
When you look at the US again, we talk about the NBA, we talk about the MLS, we talk about NFL. The league owns the clubs. The clubs are broken up into franchise that all then follow the rules, in the sense that players are then transferred through drafts.
Yeah.
Players, they don't spend huge money on, I need 50 million players to get 50 million pounds to get the best player. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, the deal's made after the contract for 5 years, or 50 million over 5 years or whatever.
And what's interesting about that is, say a lower team, let's take Norwich as an example, were in an American scenario, if they had a star player like a Neymar, they would then, Neymar can only leave if he gets traded with another club, or if his contract runs out. But what happens is, if he is a star performer in the team, he then gets a bumper on his contract, which means, I think, within the club itself, within the list of their team list or whatever, their squad list, there are only 3 or 4 that can earn star status that qualify for this contract, this bonus contract. And what their bonus contract means is that they make one of the most amounts in the league, throughout the league, compared to any other player, but then they have to extend that contract with a Norwich.
Okay.
So then they can be the highest earner in the league. But if they want to stay with the Norwich, but Norwich might not be the biggest club.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Norwich will be able to afford it because that's how their salaries,
the structure
because they got
works,
salary caps. They got salary caps. They got best players get X amount, younger players get this amount, medium players get this amount. So when their player qualifies for that bonus contract, they can then stay there. And that's how the smaller clubs keep hold of their best players. The only thing is then the player itself, if he wants to go, so now we're talking Norwich, if he wants to then go play for United, he can then run down his contract and get traded. So then the club is forced to trade him, or he can just run down his contract and not renew it, but then he becomes a free agent. That's how they work.
That was because they're saying the Premier League is competitive. Yes, it is. It is the most competitive football league because you can't say the La Liga is. It's like 3 teams.
Bournemouth got pumped 5-0 and then they've won this weekend. Yeah. How many goals they score? They beat
3-1 or something like that. And I mean, Liverpool went and won 4-0 and they went and drew 1-1. I mean, and they literally just won the league. So, and they arguably have the best team currently in Europe. So yes, it is competitive. The problem is that comes down to that specific day, that specific moment. If that team is willing to push and the other team is just not on the ball, with America, with everything else, what that allows is a continuous competitiveness throughout the league, from top to bottom, consistently almost. You never know who's going to win. You never know who's going to slip up just a little bit. Where with currently, United's now playing very well. So now you're assuming there's a good chance United's going to win the rest of their games and start the next season off really well. Liverpool should win the rest of their games, break the records, start the next season off with a bang because they can. Norwich is about to be relegated. Whoever comes up next will play very well because they're all eager beavers, and then drop because they don't have the funds to keep up. They can't get the players they need to do to fix the problems, coaches, whatever the case is. So that structure of salary caps, and you can't spend more than a certain amount on a player, and you can't buy this
and draft picks.
Yeah,
because your best club doesn't always get
because what happens, like Liverpool bought like half of Southampton, which cool, Southampton made money, but they still don't have the revenue to say, okay, cool, we're going to get a Pogba because cool, we'll bring a Pogba in for 100 million. He needs 250,000 a week. Well, that's more than 8 of our other players, and then they're stuck anyway. So it's the fair play thing. It's broken, and it's obviously been designed a specific way. The idea of it is good or enticing, but that's about it. It doesn't work. So I think all teams should be held to the same standard of, if you've done something that doesn't qualify, Real Madrid, PSG, whatever, your punishments should be straightforward. I mean, like in the world now, most places, not all, if you're not wearing a mask, you can get fined. As an example, that's just like a regulatory thing. So same thing should apply.
And I hear what you're saying, but I think the issue comes into who's actually defining these rules, who's actually defining what's fair and what isn't fair. Because we could argue now,
Illuminati.
What's interesting is that we could argue that there should be a cap, there should be this, but without all these fluctuating prices and the football economy from these external investors. The clubs in football doesn't continue to grow at the scale that it's growing. If you remove that, if you put those caps, for example, Barcelona now, they clocked, but they broke the record, became the first club to earn over 1 billion. I think it's like 1.3 billion in revenue. They're the first club to break that barrier. Now, as of 2020, that's them.
So is that why they're saying Messi won't leave Barcelona now? Because they did something.
No, well, dude, their club's in absolute shambles. Like they're in trouble.
I know they're losing the league. That's all I know. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean they've changed. That's a whole nother conversation. But the issue is the sport and the clubs. They are growing at the rate that they're growing because of the money that they're receiving from these guys. So whether Man City is putting the money into their club, they're doing. And I'm not going to fault. I mean, do I like Man City? No, I care nothing for them. But what they are doing is incredible in a sense that they've now reinvested that money in areas that count from a development perspective, from a facility perspective. Even Jurgen Klopp and the Liverpool players go and see their training facilities and they're like Jurgen Klopp would say, wow, they see that, and the stuff that they do it's incredible. And them selling like one of their youngsters to Real Madrid, for example, for 20 million, that's another revenue stream. So the way in which they're investing the money is great, but that money then gets reinvested into the sport.
Mm.
And within the sport, and that's how it becomes more profitable. And that's how it becomes in the Premier League in particular, why the Premier League is as competitive as it is.
No, I understand that. I understand that. I'm just saying that's cool and all, but ask Norwich to upgrade their academy. They can't because they don't have that kind of revenue coming in because it's not
they don't
balanced.
have anyone. They don't have anyone buying them. So what they would.
But my point is, it's not balanced in that sense. It's all based on coming in, purchasing with lots of money, and seeing the opportunities. And the problem is, you're not going to find 20 billionaires, multi-billionaires, to go and purchase one of every single team. You're going to get the top four. Look at Tottenham, how long it's taken for them to just get to where they're getting. And the guy doesn't want to spend any more money now anyway.
Well, no, but he spent money on a bloody stadium, like a state-of-the-art stadium, to be honest.
But
and that money, if it wasn't for COVID, they'd be reaping the rewards right now.
Yeah, well, I know they made some money once NFL went there to play, which I saw the whole thing on Discovery. It's pretty awesome. But that's just my point. Is just it's unbalanced, unfortunately. It's not going to change. But I guess that's what is also, I don't want to say cool, but nice about the Premier League is even though you've got these 4 or 5 clubs that have more money than they know what to do with, can do whatever they need to do to make themselves better, you still have that random chance of an Aston Villa or a Bournemouth or a Norwich just on the day doing something. And
yeah, but that's the beauty of sport. That's the beauty of sport in general. And largely the beauty of football is that unpredictability is there. You can do all you want to do, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee success.
It's not your day, it's not your day.
Yeah, and all these building blocks are necessary to get you to a point. And I suppose your argument saying, okay, cool, Norwich isn't in a situation where they can build this academy, where they can build on the brand, and they would then need to work harder in finding the right manager and finding the right system to utilize the players to get them to a point. Get them to a point where they perform at a level that creates enough awareness that people then turn their attentions and then hopefully look for potential investors. That's how it works.
Yeah.
And I know it's the same as a business, dude. It's the same as the business. And I know comparing football to a business isn't what should happen, because football clubs should make money to give back to the community, because football is a community-driven thing in all. That's what it is. But the problem is now you're getting all these foreign investors, and they need to make a profit, and financial fair play gets involved. And that's where it becomes really, really run like a business. And like a business, based on your success and your outcomes, you attract your sponsors, you attract people who want to collaborate and work with you based on what you're doing, performing wise, whatever the product is, whether it be unpredictable, whether it be predictable, whatever you're performing needs to be at a certain standard. Then you create an awareness for your name and your brand, and then you can hopefully get guys to then invest. And that, I suppose, somewhat takes away from the beauty of the sport, but the sport in itself is an unpredictable product by nature, which, like you said, you can't guarantee success. So finding certain things that can help you guarantee as much success as you can off the pitch is crucial in terms of progressing a football club. And I know we derailed from financial fair play, but all financial fair play is the bureaucrats deciding they don't like what's happening because the bigger clubs like an AC Milan have fallen off the face of the earth because they run like shit. And you're getting a Man City who are there to take their place, and they don't like that because their norms are getting challenged now. So they want to change the rules to suit everyone when they didn't give a shit about everyone prior to this, which is, I suppose, my argument.
Yeah, I think either way, they should be banned.
Yeah, look.
The point is,
also I read something that Pep Guardiola might leave, was saying he's going to leave anyway. Yeah.
Well, they're not going to win the Champions League this year anyway, so he'll probably leave. I just think to end it off this way, I think, yes, we know the PSGs and stuff are doing the things they shouldn't be doing. Okay, and now City's the one being called out. Fine. But then, excuse me, it's simple. The rules are what? You spend what you earn. Cool? You spent more than you earned. All right, here's your punishment. These 3 things. For example, no Champions League, no buying of players, and £1 million fine, whatever the case is. And it's across the board. That way, anyone who's a whistleblower to some degree, whether it's for a PSG, whether it's a Real Madrid, whether it's whatever, they all get the same treatment. That's simple as that. Because it's not going to change the fact that the Norwegians and the Aston Villas are going to financially meet those kind of spectrums. But at least it will create some sort of, if you want to say, justice for the league itself for saying you've done something wrong. You need to actually face the consequence and not have a team of lawyers that can find random loopholes, which you've probably spent more money paying them to get you out of this fine than paying the fine off in the first place, as an example. So that's how I just feel. If you know more than one team that has done it, they should all face the same kind of punishment regardless. So that's it.
Yeah, I agree with you. But I suppose that's the flaw in this whole argument, is that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
And another example as to how you can leverage the money that is coming into the club and then making a commercial success of it is if you're looking at PSG partnering with the Jordan, signing exclusive rights with Jordan, going, okay, cool. We want to partner, become the first club in football to have you as our main brand. Even though Nike's technically our sponsor, we're partnering with Jordan, and for 3 years, no other club is allowed being sponsored by you. So we have that exclusivity. And from a fashion perspective, they've moved down the fashion route. The same as Juventus, for example, rebranding, trying to move more down the fashion route, and collaborating with Palace. And these are extra avenues that these clubs sort of get when they have that financial clout and they have that brand equity to work from. That's the interesting part of this whole scenario.
That's also because PSG can't win anything besides their league that no one else competes in.
Yeah, but what they then need is another sheikh to come in there and make it competitive.
I don't know if they know this, but I don't think the Jordans will help them win a Champions League.